Hi, I kid you not, literally the second right before you called, my mom needed me to come downstairs. Ah, okay, so do you want me to tell you the story real quick? Oh, I have a story to tell. All right, hold on. Okay, so you know that I've been playing Battlefront, the new one,
Of course,
for
yes.
a fair bit now.
Not
Um,
Battlefront 2, right?
yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. The naming conventions with this series is absolutely bonkers, but the thing is, I just had the best match of my entire life.
Okay.
I sadly could not record it, but I was able to get pictures. I scored top of the entire match, 93,000 points.
Nice.
I got 277 eliminations. We went into triple overtime.
Oh my god.
Because in Capital Supremacy, there's no timer. It's just a matter of everybody keeps trying until someone wins. There have been people who have told me that they've had matches go for like over an hour. And we got close to that. We we definitely got close to that.
So you shot
And
down over almost 300 people.
in a tank and as Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's the understand. In Battlefront, it's really hard to stay alive for a long time as a Jedi. I think I finally understand how Jedi combat is supposed to work in this game.
Okay.
I made it take down Count Dooku one-on-one multiple times.
Nice. Well, I
Just all
mean, no
things.
offense, but, Christopher Lee is getting up there.
One of the better Separatist heroes. It took a while for them to make Maul even be usable. For the longest time, he was like, "Hi!" Oh, and I'm dead. Now he finally can block. For the longest time, they didn't let him block. All he could do was dodge.
He can't block? Have they not seen that movie?
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Also, Yoda couldn't block. It was weird. It was a thing. They
Yoda
patched
not
it up.
blocking makes more sense because they had that ridiculous bouncy Yoda thing. Like
He's weirdly
Pinball
not,
Yoda.
he's weirdly not bouncy in the game.
Well, thank God, that would be impossible to play. Do we all remember Yoda from Soul Calibur 4 and what garbage that was?
We try not to.
Yeah, you
But
make a strong point.
and the thing I want to emphasize is everyone was just also an amazing sport. Like, I've said it before and I will say it again. One of the reasons that I keep playing Battlefront 2 is actually the community. Like, there's such a low level of toxicity, and so many people are just happy to be nerdy about Star Wars and have a good time.
See, that's
That,
just great.
yeah, it just is beautiful. And the thing is, this came right on the heels of probably one of the worst matches I've ever played, where, like, we were winning, but not for a reason we were happy. Like, we were actually feeling bad for our opponents because we were fighting utter dipsticks who have no idea how to play an objective to save their lives. So
Oh.
going straight from that into, oh my gosh, how long have we been playing? Everyone is excited. The one guy didn't want us to win. It just kept being like, no, we're going to stop you, and this match is going to keep going. Because
Oh.
every match, it changes up who's in your team, which sucks, but it's also how we ended up together. But also, yeah, I really wish that just that whole group had stayed together because, oh my gosh, it was a thing of bloody beauty. Each way, teams actually moving in coordination, trying new strategies, people actually using the proximity mines and the smoke grenades, people using the various classes in synchronization, heroes teaming up, and not just to gangbang somebody, but to actually, like, seriously play as cooperative teammates.
We
It
do check out the comments, Afrax. Don't worry. I think Elijah will check the comments as well, just in
Elijah
case
will.
people have anything to say about Splatterhouse. But anyway, you were
Yes.
saying. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. And actually, let me get the phone set up. Just seriously, this is part of the reason why I'm so glad that DICE didn't just give up on the game because
Yeah.
by adding capital supremacy and stuff like this, and the cooperative mode is officially just as good as Wolfpack was in Assassin's Creed in terms of just educating everyone in everything they need to know. If you play co-op in Battlefront, you will actually be better in the competitive space, which is precisely
Nice.
what pretty much any co-op game should aim for. If you're going to add a cooperative mode to your competitive game, it should ensure that when people go into the competitive mode, they are better at the game. They are actually able to do more with the game. And the fact that they've achieved that on a slim budget with a skeleton crew that's left over is just, that's friggin' amazing. And just, yeah, I wanted
That's
to share.
very impressive, and I'm glad that they still care about their game after As you say, after all the bad press they got, EA might have abandoned it like they're abandoning Anthem. But there's enough
Yeah.
people there who care to keep it
Mhm.
going.
Oh yeah, and I think the one other thing that helps this thing versus Anthem is that, well, I do love Anthem to bits. Goodness me, BioWare had no idea what they were putting together. Whereas
Oh.
Battlefront, DICE knew what they wanted to make, they just didn't know how to make it in a way that actually made it playable and long-term enjoyable for players. Because
That
at
is
the
a problem.
start, they thought like Galactic Assault, which is basically a roller coaster linear game, made a multiplayer mode. And go figure, that runs out of steam just like, hey, if you've played Uncharted 2 5 times, literally nothing has changed. And really, the only big difference was either the match ends sooner because the one faction that's on defense won, or it keeps going because the attackers kept going. That pretty much was it there. Whereas with Capital Supremacy, you have 5 different objectives on the ground type, plus you have the final siege on the ship, which they've gone a couple different iterations on it. It's
Way
just
to
like,
go, Hans. Good luck catching those those Pokemons. Continue.
It's just like it just allows for so much more dynamic elements, plus all the different classes they've added in. I feel bad for the other eras because at this point Clone Wars just has so much more content that it's not even funny.
That is weird.
Like the Force Awakens, the ones they're just now, because they're finally adding them at least to the movie, they're just now getting a bomber type for the space maps. And
That took a while.
yeah, that from pretty much since launch, I was like, why is there no bomber class? Why is this not a thing? Because it was critical to all the other maps. And it's like, yeah, it's gonna be in the new movie, so yeah, odds are good it's gonna be in this. But
Fingers crossed.
and
So,
supposedly-
don't worry, Maddie. Alberta's not going to leave Canada. Alberta's not insane. They always whine whenever they lose an election, but, they calm down and stay in Canada.
Same as Quebec.
Just like Quebec. They like to whine, but then they calm down. It's totally fine. So, do you feel ready to talk some Splatterhouse unabridged?
yes, I realize I have been completely off the topic here.
Alright, so I'm going to start it up. Get ready to go. That is a very fast filling up the Pokédex, Hans. He's been playing the new Pokemon for 2 weeks and he's almost done. Like, it's Pokemon. There's hundreds of
There's
Pokemon to catch.
no loud background noise or anything on my end, is there?
No. For me, I have both a fan on and a howling windstorm outside, but I'll take that out in audio processing later. Alright, so I'm going to start recording and read us in. Hidden Object Guru here, joined by...
The unabridged gamer.
For a special Halloween spooktacular, we're going to be playing some, that's right, Splatterhouse. I'm a big fan of Splatterhouse. I love the original game. I got myself a TurboGrafx 16 back in the day just to get Splatterhouse. Completely worth it. Just an amazing experience all around. Love Splatterhouse. Love the remake. Love Splatterhouse 2 and 3. Super
Phase 2.
adore.
The doll that bled.
I adore this this Xbox 360 and PS3 remake. And it's not a sequel. It is a remake. To the point where, and this is true,
I'm right here inside your head.
I unlocked literally everything in the game. I've 100%ed everything,
You hear me?
Ow.
which is a little ridiculous.
Oh, I'm actually glad to hear that because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, believe it or not, was talking about the collectibles because there's I'm kind of fascinated by them, which
Yeah.
I know is a weird thing to say, but still just like, because for those who don't know, you collect these torn up pictures of your girlfriend Jenny that she leaves behind for you to find her, and the thing that gets me is it starts off with fairly standard TNA, but then over time they actually have some that are way more emotional and like
It's
significant
honestly, you
relationships.
can follow, and this is the genius of this game, and one of the things that I don't know anybody talked about at the time, you can follow the entire story of their relationship by looking at the various topless photos you find in the video game. It's weird.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, because they're metalheads, it doesn't even surprise me. I've known so many metalheads who are like all about sex positivity and everything that's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
buy that.
It's weirdly how... And it's a game that has topless photos as a collectible, that manages to feel non-exploitative. Which is crazy. Which is kind of crazy.
It's just surreal to consider that.
Spooktober instead of Shocktober. Bravo, Afrax. Most people go Shocktober. I stand by your choice. But yes, so tell me why you were interested in playing Splatterhouse.
Well, my reason for being interested is actually pretty standard. Nobody was nice to it. Everyone was beating down on it, and it's like, okay, so it did something interesting then? Because, like, so many times... I hate saying it because I feel like I'm saying, like, some sort of elitist critic prick here, but, like, seriously, so many times in this industry, a really interesting game gets curb stomped, and it basically grinds down to, yeah, it was interesting and not perfect, therefore, meh.
Yeah, it's just... Well, then it's complete garbage that should be totally dismissed. Like, no, that's not how it works at all. Yay, I finally got out of a grab. Oh, the grip fighting in this game is so brutal. So yes, luckily I had an extra copy for you.
Yes, and thank you for that again.
No problem at all. When I've got more than one copy of the game, there's no reason to keep it around. I'm really glad I got to help you finally play this game.
Oh, absolutely. It's the thing that gets me is it's not really the sort of game I would actually personally picture myself playing, which is one of the big ironies. Is like when I look at Splatterhouse and it's like, yeah, there's lots of gory takedowns and everything. It's like I really just I look at it and I go, I'm kind of confused as to how I'm enjoying this much. Like, I am not someone who goes gaga for God of War. The only reason I was actually interested in God of War Ascension was because, oh, well, they're doing some interesting things with the combat. And that kind of applies to a lot of games. And then I come to Splatterhouse and it's like, this is intensely gory, yet somehow demented Jim Cummings is making this way too charming. Plus the cartoonishness of everything is weirdly kind of making it easier for me when I play it. It's like, it doesn't nearly as much like say for a comparison, stabbing your thumbs into Poseidon's eyes from his perspective. That's some nightmare fuel.
The gore in this is much more playful than the gore in God of War. It's a lot more fun, and fundamentally, I think, and this is gonna maybe sound simplistic. Oh, I'm in one of the side-scrolling sections.
I actually like those.
No, they're a lot of fun. One thing that and I can't stress this enough, what got me about God of War is, and this is why I've never played a God of War game, is, well, I played a little bit of one once. I was so... I found from the very moments of the first game, the character of Kratos to be so unpleasant that I could not care what happened to him. It's like, oh, so the gods murder his family, and I'm like, I kind of feel like his family had it coming for being, married to and the child of that unbelievable dick. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but it's like, I'm just not on your side, Kratos. And I know the Greek gods are all scum, don't get me wrong, but you kind of seem worse than they do.
Yeah, no arguments. No arguments whatsoever. And I think that's one of the things that just sticks out with it, is that, like, Rick and the Mask have, like, not just chemistry, but they genuinely feel like,
they're likable. I mean, they are. I mean, Rick, I really object to his facial hair. Like, I profoundly... Oh, no. I profoundly object to this man's facial hair. No, you should not look like that. You should make better choices with your razor. But it's covered up with a mask for 99% of the game, so it doesn't matter.
Which is also a really clever animation workaround, because, like, then they don't have to animate anyone's face.
I know.
Just the mask. Just gotta do the eyeballs. Which is fine. The eyes are where you get the most emotion anyway.
Oh, yeah. And I actually play with the, because I got it on the Xbox, I always play with the Xbox mask, which is a full face covering thing that has green glowing eyes. I kind of love that look. I will say, the gameplay, I mean, the combat isn't as tight as something like God of War. It's just not. The enemies swarm you very easily. There's not a lot of moves to deal with crowds. Like, it's not... They didn't really think through that aspect of the combat, but overall, I mean, it was not a chore for me to 100% this game and, like, beat all of the combat arenas in addition to the main game, you know? Like, it didn't bother me at all to have to do that.
If I'm gonna be completely honest here, I kind of like that it's not trying to be God of War or I'm not actually trying to go for God of War person there. Devil May Cry, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want Devil May Cry all the time. This may shock somebody, but occasionally, a beat-em-up can literally just be a beat-em-up. It used to be that, you know, you didn't have to learn all these extremely elaborate combos. You could just play the game by mashing, and it wasn't horribly punishing to you for daring to do that.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, and the thing is, the game is very accessible. It's got a decent tutorial that teaches you one of your better in medias res openings you get. I mean, literally, as the game starts, there's no preamble. You've already had your guts cut out by Herbert West Reanimator, and now you're just going for it. You know, your girlfriend gets kidnapped, you get a monster mask on your face, and all within like 90 seconds, the entire game has been established. And they even do that thing that is, they managed to do the thing that starts you off the game with all of the powers, but then, of course, you quickly lose them and you have to start over, right? Without it feeling contrived. And I'm saying without it feeling contrived or doing the traditional, oh, well, now we have to cut back to 2 weeks earlier before you had all those powers. No, like, there's within the narrative a solid reason for him to not be able to use all the powers yet, because he just got the mask for the first time and his body can't contain that kind of power. So he has to
even later on, it's a matter of establishing further how the rage mode works, in that it's essentially you just managed to consume enough blood that you're not going to instantly die from doing this.
Yep. No, it's a good system. And now this is true. This is going to sound ridiculous. So I've unlocked everything, every bit of everything in the game you can unlock. Do you know how much blood I have now?
I'm very curious. I'm going to say it's at least probably twice of whatever I've collected in Syndicate's co-op.
145,000 liters of blood.
Well,
apparently I played this a lot more than I remember having played it.
Well, you do seem to collect a lot more blood in the later sections. That's the thing I noticed. Is just it seems to be pouring in.
Oh. I do like that when you continue and choose levels, you know, like your blood stays the same. You've got the your blood stays completely sorry, your blood doesn't change at all. You've got... Whoa, careful. Oh my god, Jim Cummings. Right, you've got the Dr. West's handjob dungeon. Oh my god. But yes, what I think the game's biggest problem, and this is an actual problem, is during the tutorial, it doesn't tell you about blood healing. It doesn't tell you that at any point you can use a, what do you call it, one power cell to drain all of the blood from an enemy and heal yourself. So it's like, if you just play the game, you think the only way to heal is by going into beast mode and doing full healing. But that's not true. You can heal whenever you want.
No, it gave me a prompt.
I know, it gives you a prompt between levels. There's a tooltip.
I actually, it's in, believe it or not, it's in my update video on what's all been going on
Really?
on my channel. And I got a prompt. It actually it gave me suddenly a bit more,
I did not see it.
Of the blood, and then I was able to recharge.
That is crazy, because I did not see that at all.
Get to low health. I think
that might be it.
Time.
Okay, I popped a monster's head. That is just excessively gory. So, I think that's the big question. Why is the gore in this game so much less traumatic? Is it the cartoony look? Is it the context for the violence? Like, why is the gore in this game so much easier to take than the gore in so many other games?
I think it partially is aesthetics, and it also, on some points, is a matter of, well, they just make it funny. Like, it's really hard to make a good horror comedy. We have a lot of crappy ones. I mean, that happens a lot where it's something awful like Stand Against Evil or some shit.
Yeah, that
But,
wasn't great.
But you actually get a really good sense of, okay, yeah, we're all here to have a good time and laugh instead of some sort of really awkward or cringeworthy thing, which I think they had to do very delicately because, like, there's multiple takes of all the different things Jim Cummings can say to you in a demented voice, and it's like, yeah, that's significant because if they hadn't gone to the lengths of doing that, I don't think it would have landed nearly as well. And I think just having Cummings there also saves them so much because the guy can sell almost anything. So
Oh, he brings so much to this game. I completely agree with you on that one. Like, grab an enemy and press Y facing forward to a spike to impale them. Oh, okay. I'd totally forgotten that mechanic. Having to impale guys on walls.
Yeah, that was the one thing that did give me a little squeamish, was the one where you could just jam them down into chairs with spikes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that was a bit more than I needed. That one bit.
It's good to know you can draw the line somewhere.
It ain't gonna hurt much longer.
Oof. Oh, did I get murdered. And then, like, there's nice little things. This is going to sound a little strange to call this little and cute, but the way pieces of your body get torn off, and then you heal them back together by sucking up blood.
Yes.
That's a nice touch.
Not only that, but that you can actually use your arm to beat people up. That is just...
Yeah, picking up your own arm and beating people with it is very charming. It's interesting that they, even though Herbert West Reanimator is copyright cleared, they, like, at the last moment, cop out and change the guy's name. He's still Dr. West, and he is a reanimator, but they, like, won't call him Herbert West. Not yet, Maddie. I will, though. And I find that a little weird, because, you know, everyone knows who Herbert West Reanimator is, right?
I know Reanimator by proxy. I'm not going to say that I know it by heart or whatever.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I will say, though, that no matter what, the guy they got as West is fantastic.
Oh, he's so creepy.
Not just that, but, like, can I say the... I know you don't usually swear on the channel. Can
Oh, yes, of course you can.
Okay. I love when it's right near the end and, you know, Rick yells, "Fuck you, West!" And West just, you know, his head turns around there and it's this so operatic thing. It's like, "No, Rick, fuck you!" It is so many layers of campy over the top that it was perfect.
It really is.
I think that's one of the other major wins about this entire game is just how perfectly they embrace the camp, because that's something that I've been appreciating more in watching this one YouTube channel, Good Bad Flicks, which I also think really helped set me up to be interested in Splatterhouse, because if he still did game videos, I'm sure he would have talked about it at some point.
Right.
And just, it's like, okay, yes, this is extremely lowbrow, silly nonsense, but also it makes the little metalhead in me smile, and oh my gosh, is there so much clear passion and love put into this.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I love most about it is how much these guys clearly cared about making a, like, gore, like, they needed the gore. The gore is the brand of the franchise. You need the gore to sell the game. I get that, but beyond that, they genuinely cared about making a very good brawler. And, like I said, there's bits and pieces of the controls, like I said. I mean, until you unlock the right skills, there's no way to do crowd control and things like that. But once you've done it, like, once you've got the game going and figured out all of it, once you've unlocked everything and figured out the combat system, I mean, like you said, it's not on the level of God of War, but it's not that far behind it either.
No, it's got a lot of things going on, and it's got a lot of its own ideas. It really appreciates grappling enemies, which is something you don't see a lot of combat systems build themselves around. And also, the idea of, instead of complex combos, making special moves be reliant on blood. I like that, too, because it's something you don't see a lot, and it makes you think about combat in a completely different way, because it's like, do I want to save this for when I use my ultimate charge? Do I want to heal up? Or do I want to just do a blade swing and dismember everyone in half?
Yeah, that blade swing's pretty beautiful.
Or it makes them all better.
Oh yeah, that's pretty gorgeous. Where you just do the super long monster arms and just cut everybody in half right at the waist.
Yeah, do you do the... Yeah, you know, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. They stole that move for Venom. You know, when
Which?
the evil Venom... I'm trying to think of it. It's not Barricade, whatever the hell his name is. The evil Venom in the Venom movie.
Oh, right.
He actually does that move.
Oh, right, he does.
I so hope that someone was just a fan of the game and they took it from there. I would be so happy if I heard that.
Well, every now and then you do see obvious video game references in movies. I mean, I don't know if you saw that second Kingsman movie, but they were like, hey, what if the bad guy has the arm from Bionic Commando? And so you just, like... And they put no design work into it beyond just putting the arm from Bionic Commando on screen. It's like, oh, our work here is done. I almost respected how obvious a ripoff it was. Oh, here we go. And just honestly, the mechanic of tearing off enemies' limbs whenever you want is such a nice feature. Like, you can constantly tear off the minor enemies' limbs, you can use them as weapons. Like, they have put so much thought into every little bit of the combat, making it as gruesome and unpleasant as possible. It's a really nice touch.
Absolutely, and it's just...
Well, there's nothing like it, and I guess that's what bothers me. Is like, it's one of those things where, on one level, I want to figure out how well it's sold, because you play it and you're like, this is perfectly good. It can't have been a huge budget game, right? Like, there's no way this game cost a ton to make. It was made by the people who made Mark of Kree, who had a lot of experience making this kind of game on a decent budget. It doesn't have a giant amount of locations, or it doesn't have a lot of really processed cutscenes. Like, you play this game.
Have you read the story behind the game?
Splatterhouse? No, I know nothing of the story behind it.
Okay, first of all, the whole Mark of Kree, whatever, developers, the lead guy behind that totally is part of the reason this game had such a rough launch.
Oh, no.
He kept trying to turn it into Silent Hill Mark of Kree. Okay,
What?
Seriously,
Really?
there's concept art for, like, people with television heads and weird wires. It looks almost more like BioShock. It was...
Oh, no.
Namco Bandai had to basically hire everyone except the management, make a different studio, and unfortunately, and the thing is, Namco Bandai were trying hard to salvage. It's like, this isn't one of those cases where the publisher screwed over a developer or something. No, they were dedicated to trying to see this through, and I actually have to really respect them for that. But sadly, it wasn't enough. Before the game even released, they were down to just one employee handling certification. They got some developers when they were talking to, was it Eurogamer or Polygon or something? There is a article, if you Google it, it's like one of the first responses on Splatterhouse. That's how I found out about it. And
wow.
Apparently, it took everything. They got around 75% of what they wanted to done. So,
and I'm guessing they ran out of money for the future sequences.
Yeah,
I feel like the post-apocalypse. Yes, Horror King, it is neat when we have a guest on the show, and hopefully the Unabridged Gamer will be able to drop by more often, now that he's got... Actually, wait, you have much less time on your hands. Forget I said anything. People were just encouraging you being here. But yeah, that's great. I feel like, yeah, there is an element of unfinishedness to the future scenes, and I think it's safe to say that the whole final level is a disaster.
Okay, yes, okay, good. We can agree on that because, like, they just start throwing mini bosses at you, and then literally, unless you look around and find the hidden bonus weapon, it's unbeatable. It just is. I'm playing on the easiest friggin' difficulty setting, and I'm beating my head against the wall, thinking, am I going to stop playing this game I really, really enjoy because I just genuinely can't stand this last level?
It's crazy. I mean, it is rare because I'm not gonna say I breezed through the game. There's plenty of bosses gave me a little trouble, plenty of fights I had problems with. I'm not great at the platforming, and I'd say the platforming is kind of shady in the 2D side-scrolling segments, but you know what? That's actually accurate to the original Splatterhouse, so I can only get so angry about it. But what gets me is, when you get to that last sequence, it's just... They thought that design is have 50 different mini-bosses constantly thrown at you, and you have to do it on an incredibly tight timeline. I don't know what they were thinking, but someone needed to tell them this just wasn't working. But now that you tell me this about the process of making the game, I feel like they just ran out of time.
I think it was both a running out of time, and I could swear the way the game ends...
Yeah.
Because, understand, you've played the other Splatterhouses. You know that if you complete the games in a certain time period, either something bad happens to Jenny or she's saved.
It's the third one that really gets into that. Yes.
Yeah.
2 does that a little, and the third one does that too.
I firmly believe that was supposed to be a thing in this one, because the way the ending's written, it feels like because they have a timer mechanic and everything already,
yeah.
So I feel like they could have had either a Metro/Silent Hill-esque thing where there were certain criteria across the game to get,
yeah,
or there was just, they wanted to do it at this particular point and it didn't come through in time, so they had to cut it, and we got the cliffhanger ending that we did.
Yeah, so disappointed about the cliffhanger ending.
And
And especially when,
exactly where it's going.
Oh yeah, totally. No. It's completely obvious where this would go next, and honestly, sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm great now. Honestly, Namco, just bring it back. I mean, we'll all buy another Splatterhouse, won't we?
Bring it to PC, for goodness sakes. Bringing it to PC would be marvelous at this point, because there's a whole audience who never played it and who would appreciate it at like a budget price.
Oh, totally. And the thing is, I loaded this up, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but there are so many games out there. Like, there is so much breadth to the kind of games being made that this doesn't even look particularly bad.
Oh, yeah,
like, that's the thing. It's a 10-year-old game, and it looks fine. Like,
it's got some janky animations here and there.
Yeah, but if this were a $30 game, right, on Steam, I would be, and if this was a game that cost $30 and came out today, I'd be like, yeah, this was a game made by a slightly limited team today, and now it's worth about $30. I'd be completely fine with that. I assume that putting it out on PC would allow them to get the frame rate under control. Because let's face it, you played the same game I did. There are frame rate hitches.
And it was weird when it would have a frame rate issue. That is the thing that did stick out to me, was like, this doesn't seem like a section where it should be lagging, although there was one point where I cut off enough limbs that there was like close to 40 different body parts flying around, so at that point I was like, okay, this time you have every excuse to have a low frame rate.
Well, something that happened to me last night, I was literally playing on the stream. They just released Earth Defense Force Iron Rain on PC, right? And the good people at D3 were nice enough to send me a copy. Thanks again, D3. By comparison, I had to buy both of my copies of Splatterhouse. So I'm just saying, it's a ridiculous thing for me to draw the line about. But anyway, thanks again, D3, for sending that over. What interested me is it plays so much better on my PC than it ever did on the PlayStation 4 Plus. Because the PlayStation 4, I mean, it's a 6-year-old system, right? It is starting to show its age. But even with my comparatively old, like 4 or 5-year-old video card, I still get I still get a really great frame rate on this really gorgeous game with lots of enemies on screen. And it makes me think that as I play something like this, if you were able to get a consistent 60 frames per second out of this, I think people would be really satisfied with both the graphics and the performance of this thing. Does that make sense?
Since we have this whole scene, it's also worth mentioning, we have this whole scene now of these very small-scale horror games. I mean, one of the times I was on stream with you, it was for a puppet combo game.
Exactly.
It just is a whole thing now.
Yeah, I mean, people have this, selling thousands and thousands of copies of these low-budget-esque-ish horror games. There's fun, niche horror that everyone can get in on, right? And this is a perfect example of that. Oh, I found another gramophone. But that's kind of the genius of this game is it almost feels like a game before its time. If you know what I mean. Like, there wasn't a lot of stuff like this out. Something that just revels in the bloodiness of it and just tries to have fun. It is a grindhouse-style game. You know? And I know that that's an overused term, but here it's accurate. Yes, it's a lot like Wet, except I would say this is more polished than Wet.
Oh yeah, no question.
This is definitely a more polished experience than Wet, but you're right, it's trying to do the exact same kind of thing. And I really liked Wet, but it's a rough game in a way that this just isn't. This is extremely playable. And Wet, I love, and is full of great ideas, but it's not playable like this is.
Oh yeah.
Also, Wet had Malcolm McDowell.
It did, and it sadly underused him. Like, the man made Killzone be one of the most hilarious games ever. How can you not utilize him more, Wet?
I know, right? But good cast, lots of fun performances, you know, there's some really interesting gameplay mechanics. But a lot of it was rough, and it felt like a situation where, you know, Wet 2, if they had been able to take the lesson they learned with that first game and try it again, I really feel like they would have had something special.
Oh, that one actually almost happened. That's another one that hurts. I learned recently, the next one, they planned on doing the whole it being number 2, translating to it being a double feature. It was going to have 2 different campaigns.
Aww.
Yeah, it looks perfect, but the thing is, and the thing that gets me is that the developer behind it still exists, Behavior Interactive. They're doing Dead by Daylight. They clearly have enough capital now.
Whoa, hold on. You're telling me that Dead by Daylight is made by the people who made Wet?
Yep.
I had no idea.
Yep.
Oh my god. That's so cool.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like, just talk to Bethesda and convince them to give you the IP back.
It's not like Bethesda... Yeah, it's not like Bethesda wants to do anything with it.
No, they probably have forgotten that they even own it.
Have I ever watched an Indian thriller film? No, I have never watched an Indian thriller film. Unless you count Indian Oldboy, which I don't, but I have watched Indian Oldboy. India remade Oldboy. Illegally, obviously. But they did. It was weird. Because you can't do any of the really rough stuff that Oldboy did, because it's India. And they're still pretty puritanical there. There's a ton of stuff they weren't able to do. But it's the plot of Oldboy run through, you know, the Indian sensibilities. And it's a lot of fun. But anyway, yeah, so it fits with this, like, sleazy, grindhouse, ultra-violent, but weirdly kind of... not low stakes, but not... There's no, oh, well, this is a definitive experience. This is the only game you have to play feel to it. They're like, we're just a confection. We're just something fun for you to play. So let's have as much fun as possible and just get into it. And both of them embraced how much fun they were in a way that so many other way more self-serious games were never able to.
And I think that usually makes you more endeared to just like the entire experience, all of the story and everything that's going on in Splatterhouse. Because let's be real here, I cared way more about what happened to Rick and Jenny than a lot of other people in a lot of other games, because, you know, they're actually human beings. There's a personality. It's not just, well, we have to save the world because we have to save the world. You're right. You're right that fundamentally this guy just wanting to get his fiancée back is the central motivation of the game. Yeah, he's also trying to save the world from a mad scientist who's in league with, you know, eldritch forces. But fundamentally, he has a very smaller set of priorities that are the focus of his quest. And he becomes... And, again, the plot is that he becomes the tool of dark forces because of his desires, but fundamentally, you understand where he's coming from and why he makes the decisions he does.
And again, because they're just such likable, relatable people, you get on board with their journey in a way I was never able to get on board with Kratos. Although apparently now that Kratos is a middle-aged dad, he's much more relatable. Also voiced by Christopher Judge. Yeah, they swapped out the voice actor, now it's Christopher Judge.
Well, he's fantastic.
I made Lady Guru here perk up her ears because she's a Stargate superfan, and everybody loves Christopher Judge. And I'm like, yeah, Christopher Judge is great. I'm not going to debate that point. The man's a miracle worker. He made a lot with a little. Take that, you jerks. No, I'm a big fan. But anyway, yeah, like it's the kind of thing where it's like, do we start a petition? Do we just start, trying to email Namco and ask them about this? Because why are you guys not working on this? Why did you guys let Splatterhouse just become a live fallow as a, as an IP for... I mean, think about it. So Splatterhouse comes out in, what, like 89? Then, like, 91 and 92, you get Splatterhouse 2 and 3. And then it just completely disappears from the public mindset. Nobody hears about or talks about Splatterhouse again for 11 years. Then...
Unless you count that weird kids game.
When Paku Graffiti? Yeah. That was a lot of fun, but I think that came out around the same time as Splatterhouse 2? So, like, it wasn't actually later on. But you're right, there was a third Splatterhouse game I often forget about. The Kids Splatterhouse.
Yes, for the kids!
Splatterhouse, but for kids! He fights Jason and the Fly and Freddy Krueger. It's all very copyright not cleared, and you can do that in Japan, because apparently they have no copyright laws there, but they could never release it anywhere else. There we go. What interests me, right, is... So, basically, you hear nothing, zero, from Splatterhouse for a decade, and then, out of nowhere, Resident Evil 4 decides to include a bunch of tributes to Splatterhouse in it. I'm like, that was out of left field. Not only are there, the Dr. Salvadors, but in one of the Mercenaries arena modes, they have a character who is the Chainsaw Biggie Man from Splatterhouse. Like the chainsaw, the dual-arm chainsaw boss. It's a giant man with a bag head and a double-bladed chainsaw that is clearly meant to be a reference to that character from Splatterhouse. And you're like, people at Capcom remember and care about Splatterhouse, and that had to keep us going for 6 more years until this thing came out. And now we're back in yet another giant drought of content where no one is working on it, no one's trying to sell Splatterhouse games, no one is putting any effort into, encouraging people to check out this brand, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, and it's actually been an issue with Namco Bandai I've found in general. It's just that they seem to have a very weird content strategy in that I'm not sure that they have one. Because, like, them releasing Code Vein, that they already have From Software on board, but ever since Sekiro, it's like, oh crap, there's a chance they could go somewhere else. Okay, somebody else think of something Souls-likey. We'll put anime vampires in it.
Well, it seems to be making them a lot of money, so there you go.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt it is, and just, I've heard various things. Like,
Yeah.
I've not always heard the best thing, but I've heard various things, so it's like, they're at least trying, and that is the other thing that I got from the article, is they really want to make, whenever they work on a game, they seem to want to make it work. It's not just a random thing to them, it's just that they have a very odd scattershot approach to choosing what games and IPs that they're working on at any given point. Because, like, whenever there's a Humble sale or whatever, and it's for Namco Bandai, just look at the games that are on offer, and then compare that with any other publisher. There's, like, no consistency.
No, yeah, there's no... They are so all over the map, because it'll be something like Code Vein, it'll be Dark Souls, then there'll be a bunch of Gundam games, then there'll be some, like... didn't they do Little Nightmares?
Yeah, they did
Little Nightmares.
Sequel.
Yeah, and it's getting a sequel. It's like, they have the weirdest, most eclectic mix, and they have a bunch of JRPGs for sale. And they have... Oh, did they put out the new Ace Combat? I feel like they put out the new Ace Combat.
I forget if they did. I could be
Yeah, no, it might have been Konami again. I don't remember who did Ace Combat.
Oh, it
Point
wasn't
is,
Konami. I know it wasn't Konami, so it wasn't Namco Bandai.
it was
then
probably Namco Bandai. But that's the point. Like, they have this... You're right, an incredibly random-seeming mixture of games they're going to put out, and you never really know what you're going to get from them. And given that they're so all over the map, why not take a chance on bringing back Splatterhouse? Doesn't it just make sense? Like, this is exactly the kind of thing that people are craving, and who knows, maybe it'll do well enough to finally get us that next part of the story. But maybe not. It would be, wouldn't it? So, did you? Are you going to be doing, since you're doing your second look articles, are you going to be doing another one about Splatterhouse and saying this thing really deserves that kind of attention?
Unfortunately, Splatterhouse isn't going to be on the lineup. I can say that my next one is based on a franchise that Warner Brothers actually had a hand in. That's what the last one they're going to have is. It's a Warner Brothers property that's horror, and
really,
it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm very excited to be talking about that one. I'm also extremely nervous because it's a subject matter that I've wanted to touch on with that particular franchise for a while now. It's something that I've never seen anyone talk about. People have talked about aspects of this franchise. They have discussed it, but I've never seen anyone do quite what you see them doing this one. And I'm having to stay vague because I know it's going to be coming out this Thursday, so you will get to see it, will get to experience it, and I will do my utmost to ensure that it is the shiniest article possible. But no, Splatterhouse will be getting a video on Chunks. Average Gamer is going to be getting videos.
Nice.
Only a little bit in flux. I'll be real with everybody. It's a little bit in flux, but I am excited for the prospect. There's some real potential here for some very exciting stuff for Average Gamer. I'm surprised to say that completely by accident, a lot of zombies. Like, I'm gonna have a lot of zombie games to talk about this October. That was not planned. I'd like to say, oh yes, it's specifically supposed to be like some kind of cool temper or whatever. It's like, nope. Somehow end up with lots of
non-stop zombies. Well, I'm glad to see that you're going to give this game one of your more in-depth looks, because I think it absolutely deserves it, and, you know, I'm going to let people know about that when it comes out. You going to, hopefully you can include that wonderful behind-the-scenes stuff you've been telling me, because, oh, it's so frustrating to know that that it was put in the hands of a developer. I mean, as you say, just the head guy, but a developer who didn't understand what they had with this. You know, like, they really had something special with this franchise, and they could have, if they had just trusted the franchise and its fans. And I'm not going to say that they necessarily thought they were, but maybe thought they were a little better than Splatterhouse. And if they hadn't, maybe it would have been the success it deserved to be.
Yeah, it's always a shame when you hear something like that, but I'm just glad that it did make it to release, because there are so many games like this where they never
actually come out. It's true. Yeah, like where you hear about a game, and you're excited about a game, and then it just never makes it there. One of my all-time favorite stories about that was, for the life of me this day, I can no longer remember the name, but someone had said, we're making a zombie game that's Grand Theft Auto, but with zombies. It's in a town full of, crazy monsters. You're gonna have to, like, drive a car around to find all sorts of, to find weapons and do missions. There's gonna be zombies everywhere to drive over. And this is years before something like, State of Decay tried that. And I remember it was probably 2004, 2005 they were trying that, and it's one of those things where it's like it had two really good E3 showings, but for whatever reason, something happened behind the scenes, and they couldn't make the game happen, and it always feels sad.
I do like that at least in this case we can say that, not with this one, but with Wet, we can be like, oh yeah, by the way, yes, the developers did survive. They changed names like 3 times, but they survived.
Yeah, that is nice. Whereas the Mark of Kree guys, Bottle Rocket, I want to say?
Yeah, Bottle Rocket was what the company... I think that was either the company's name or what they renamed when they were like, okay, and now you're free of your crazy boss.
Oh. I'm very sad they didn't make it. Oh, apparently Horror King has a question for us.
Oh, hold on. Let me see.
Alright, it's coming up in a moment.
Watching, waiting, watching. Also, can you agree that this giant boss was frickin' fantastic?
No, their Poltergeist boss is amazing. Like, what a great choice. Like, it is just it's, again, a way to do something really interesting while completely keeping in tune with the aesthetic and the history of Splatterhouse. Because the Poltergeist boss in the original was one of the most interesting things a side-scrolling game has ever done. One of the most surprising and strange and interesting. And you're like, okay, well now we're doing a more traditional brawler than the original was. How can we do that? Oh, come on, are you kidding me? Apparently if you lose one phase of a boss fight. Same answer I always give Horror King. Best underrated low-budget horror movie is Lake Mungo, a movie everyone has to see.
Horror King, in my respect, I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you here. I actually don't do well with horror movies. Like, it's ironic, because we're sitting here talking about Splatterhouse and everything's like, literally any other type of media, I'm fine. But
Yeah.
movies is something that I'm actually working on. Like, at some point, I am going to watch The Shining with my mom, and that's a promise to her, because it's her favorite movie of all time, and that's the thing. She is the horror movie buff. I think she even saw, like, that one Ghoulies or whatever with the green guy who was coming out of the toilet and everything. Like,
That is called Ghoulies, yeah.
Yeah, she has watched all sorts of stuff like that because as a kid, she just, she was fascinated by it.
Nuts
she
for
was
horror.
one of those 80s kids, so it's like, I know a lot of this stuff, and I can reference a lot of it, and like I said, watching good, bad flicks has taught me a lot about it.
Yeah,
But
it's
there's
just
something about
not
the
your
live
thing.
action- The live action bit really bothers me. Like, I've watched Dead Space. The Dead Space movies I've watched. I
Oh, yeah.
have the one on DVD because it's like, this I can appreciate. This isn't going to bother me as much because when it's animated, once again, it's not nearly as bad.
Right, I got you.
But pretty much any horror game, I'm pretty good so long as like the content isn't actually like objectionable, and as such, the best low-budget horror game I can recommend that I actually got something out of and that genuinely gave me some like actual vibes. Dark Places. It's free on Steam. It was literally someone's first game in FPS Maker, and it somehow manages, when you're playing it late at night, just play it late at night just by itself, let the music just basically chanting on in the background, and like, it genuinely creeps you out.
And it's called Dark Places?
Yes, I believe it's called Dark Places. I can look it up on Steam and see specifically, but it's the same person behind it sadly got like confident from that and then ended up actually doing a much worse game for a few bucks called Doomed. Yes, very subtle reference there.
Oh.
Where it basically imagine the world's worst Xeroxed copy of Doom 2016. Like, there's an execution where you use a chainsaw to take off somebody's head, and it's like, this is taking forever. Could I just, do you mind if I go do my taxes all a while? Because
Oh,
clearly you don't need me here for this.
oh, that's terrible.
Whereas the first thing, like, he's got platforming, there's this weird esoteric environment, like there's just sudden gaps, and it's supposed to be set in your mind. So as a result, all these creepy monsters and everything, it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of quaky. I like the sort of very 90s heft to these weapons. This works. So I
Nice.
don't know what happened there.
Wow.
You still don't trust
But,
me,
just like, that guy managed to very luckily create something interesting. And, like, as I said, it's free, so you can try it. If you think it's garbage, that's fine. It's just, like, in terms of the lowest budget thing I can recommend.
Well, how long would it take someone to play, do you think?
I never finished all the way through, because it's FPS Maker, the save game system is really finicky. But, I imagine you could pretty much get a gist of whether or not you're going to like it or not in, like, under an hour.
I see it all now.
And from there on, it's like there's more levels. Also, there were puzzles, like genuine puzzles that required memorization. I think it genuinely wouldn't have been as good of a game if he knew what he was doing. It was
Oh.
really a stroke of just amazing dumb luck, whoever this person was who made it. Which I feel like it's the most backhanded compliment I could give, but like really, I mean it. He like did so much that does work, that also, goodness me, clearly when you're actually trying, it is not going to work as well. It's sort of like how, you know, you encounter someone where when they're drunk they can sing perfectly, but when they're not drunk they can't hold a tune to save their life.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things where just instinct took over and made an incredible result.
Mm-hmm.
Instant
Absolutely.
luck. Who can say? Oh, we're doing a little flashback.
Yes, you could say he was doomed from the start.
See, they go to Miskatonic University. That's great. In Arkham, Massachusetts. Such a nice touch.
I will say that there is one thing about the Splatterhouse cinematics that I kind of would have liked.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see their whole actual... Because clearly someone actually recorded the full intro without all the cuts and jarring things. I would like to be able to
see the uncut movie from beginning to end.
Yes, because clearly something happened there, and there's a lot of stuff going on there, and I'd like to see it.
That might be an interesting thing to try to edit together.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Well, the thing is, you could try and edit it together, but there's some stuff that just still
is missing. Yeah.
They open up in places where the barriers.
No, you're right. There's even if you manage to get all of the pieces, there's just stuff that's not in there.
Could be another world.
Yeah, and clearly it was rendered. It just got chopped up. That's one of the other situations where it's like, I'm wondering, was this an intentional chopping or was this random?
Yeah.
And can I add something that's kind of off topic, but I just kind of have to mention?
Of course, we're wrapping this up. This is the perfect time to digress.
Well, it doesn't have to do with Splatterhouse, but it has to do with something that's, about as intense.
Okay.
So, I'm finally trying LEGO Star Wars 2 on DS, because it was
I completely see the logic in calling that as intense as Splatterhouse.
So here's the thing. In the Death Star section where you are R2-D2 and C-3PO, because they're not like, I'm gonna be honest here, I think the DS version might actually be a better version than the home console port.
Wow.
They seem to be clever, a lot more clever about certain things, and the AI is way less obtuse.
Huh.
Because the main home console game, it's near impossible to ever play anything in that game without getting curb stomped by 50 stormtroopers whenever you so much as breathe.
Yeah, there's a lot of Star Wars games that have Star Wars Legos that have that exact problem. You're just swarmed all the time. Then you can't really take a moment to appreciate what they've done with these levels.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you were saying.
Yes, the thing with this one is, there was a panel where I could interact as R2-D2, and I was doing it casually to just keep my hands idle while we were talking, and yeah, it blew up a planet with the Death Star.
What?
A computer panel opens up, and you see a planet being blown up by the Death Star.
And wait, did you as R2-D2 cause that
Yes.
planet to get... Oh my god!
That's in this game as a joke!
That is something you shouldn't be joking about.
This is the children's game, and I just decimated an entire society.
Yeah, that's horrific.
So now you see why I say it's about as intense.
Yeah, no, there's nothing that bad in Splatterhouse, I'll say that for sure. Wow.
I just don't know how to process that. It's like, I'm just idly, playing along. It's like, oh, this is so cute. And then it just suddenly, okay, by the way, you're a murderer now.
I would say more than a murderer. A mass murderer.
Yeah, Hitler has your phone number now.
God. Alright, so that's going to be it for our discussion of Splatterhouse. Thank you so much, Unabridged, for joining me for this.
Oh,
as you can say, I am a big fan of this game. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. I'm very looking forward to the content you're making on it. Would you like to direct people to where they can see your other stuff?
Yes, you can find me both at Unabridged Gamer on YouTube and also as Second Look on The Escapist. I also do reviews that nobody's ever happy with. And other such good content for The Escapist. So you can find me both those places, or you can follow me at @UnderbridgeGamer on Twitter, where occasionally I might actually mention where I'm streaming, if I ever actually have time to stream again. Once I figure out, also how to sneak in time to sleep.
Okay. So yeah, he's got a lot going on, is what is our big takeaway with this one. Seriously though, thank you for dropping by. I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more, there's buttons for that coming up. There's plenty of stuff that Unabridged and I have done together. We've got, you can find that often in the co-op section, or just search the channel for Unabridged's name and it will come up. We'll see you back here for more just excessively gruesome games, but until then I'm going to say au revoir.
Taking my girl to the Eclipse Rock Festival.
There we go.
Seriously though, thank you for getting this game to me. I'm so
Of course.
grateful.
No, I mean, it's a hard game to track, weirdly difficult game to track down.
Although I did notice something during the PlayStation Halloween sale that I think that would make you happy.
Oh, what's that?
Yakuza Dead Souls was $5 for digital on PS3. So some people finally actually... I managed to grab House of the Dead 3 and 4.
How much is that?
They were each like $3.
I may pick those up.
I don't know if that's still the sale price. Bear in mind, it's been a while. It's just, I at the time, it was like, oh, there's Yakuza, that's good. That would make him so happy. And then it's also like, oh, House of the Dead. That's a PlayStation Move game. I'm going to need those because everybody wants me to do movement-based games in 2020.
I am patiently waiting for them to do what they should have done frigging 5 years ago. Oh, whoops. Which is put all of the House of the Dead games out on VR. Horror King, what he's doing is, he's doing videos and reviews for The Escapist now, as well as his own channel.
Yeah,
That's why he's so busy.
A lot of things happened. I did a video on it, Horror King, if you need to get up to speed. A lot of things happened very quickly, and my entire schedule went...
But yeah, it's like, Sega makes VR games, right? They have the setup to make VR games for either the PS VR or for the Oculus and Vive. They have sitting in a vault somewhere all of the assets for House of the Dead 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I know this for a fact because they just put out, what do you call it? Typing of the Dead on PC. So I know they have all of the assets ready to go. So just marry all of those assets with a VR setup, which I know is going to be a little complicated, but I don't think it's going to be that complicated, and give us the, VR House of the Dead game of our dreams. And I think you're going to sell a ton of copies.
Not only that, but it's not even like the beta code is hard to find, because PTOP Online Borman, he managed to find a build from the Xbox build for House of the Dead when it was still in debug.
Wow.
Like, it's not hard to find it.
I'm such a fan of PTOP Online.
Oh, he finds such good things. I wish he could really share Mega Blocks, like Halo Mega Blocks. That looks so good!
Well, he also got, again, speaking of, there's a Stargate video game that was basically finished. And they just threw it away. Made me so sad. Although the thing that blew my mind the most was to find out that before it became a PS4 game, they had a basically 85% feature-complete version of Until Dawn that was done. That was a first-person move game. And it was only when, no one on Earth wanted to buy a move, they're like, oh, what the hell do we do with this? And they're like, well, we've already spent so much time and money on this, let's do it again. But then they wrote an entirely new plot, cast all new actors, and essentially started from scratch and made the whole game again.
Yeah, that's the thing that,
it's
personally
crazy.
For me, if I ever... I'm not going to say it. When I get into proper game development again,
yeah,
one of my foremost rules for myself is that I need to, as a bonus, I want to have as an unlock, here's some of the beta stages, here's, the prototype, because that's the thing that Team Meat did with, the collection, and that is fantastic.
I love that collection from Team Meat. so you can see all of the iterations of it. Like, for casual fans, for people interested in game development, there's any number of reasons to want to check that out, and it just blew me away. You're right, Horror King. They should do a House of the Dead collection on Xbox One and PS4. I think people would love that.
Plus PSVR, that's a thing that's still going on.
Yeah, PSVR
and if
is
they really
doing fine.
wanted to annoy people, they could also make it so that the Xbox One port supports Kinect.
Oh, yeah. Something tells me they're not going to tick people off that much.
Oh, it would be hilarious, though.
It would be hilarious if they're like, it's got Kinect functionality, and then everyone would write a story about why would you have Kinect functionality in this day and age? What's wrong with your brain? Because, of course, you were literally the only person left playing Kinect.
Yeah, I am. And just to emphasize the point on that, the Kinect has been the one platform where I almost guaranteed can find games unopened, and they're still super cheap. My copy of the Gunstringer cost like maybe $7. It still has the Fruit Ninja code in it.
The Gunstringer and Fruit Ninja. Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's sort of surreal going through some of these games, and it's also weird and another thing I wanted to say real quick here is game prices never make sense for the more expensive platforms. Like for DS, I'm looking up the stuff for like the 3DS and everything, doing it for just, researching, okay, so what exactly, and it's, okay, I'm sorry, Kid Icarus costs more than Smash Brothers.
What?
Yes, Kid Icarus costs like $30. Smash Brothers goes for like $12 on eBay.
What is happening?
And it's just sort of like that. Like Marvel's Kinect game, that was their discount Kinect game for the Avengers movie.
I remember that one, yeah.
Canceled. Yeah, that one tends to retail for higher than almost any other Kinect game. Like, I got stupid lucky finding it at a GameStop for like $8. Like
how is that game?
I have not gotten to try it yet, but it's supposed to be based on Power Up Heroes, and Power Up Heroes was actually quite decent.
Okay.
It's like, hey, what if you took all of those superhero fighting game mobile games and you applied it to Kinect? And it's like, that's a pretty reasonable thing to go for. I can see that.
It doesn't sound like a terrible idea.
Yeah, no, it works fairly well because instead of using moves for everything, it's more like there's specific gestures for specific commands. It recognizes that, hey, the Kinect is a giant phone screen, so treat it like a giant phone screen, and then suddenly your game will play well. I don't know why so many people had a hard time figuring this out, because
there are plenty of people out there friggin' designing apps for phones with no trouble at all, yet they couldn't wrap their heads around it in this one case.
And I just want to say right now, it kills me that Infinity Blade never got a port to Kinect, because, oh my gosh, it's so obvious. How did no one put that together?
Wait, Infinity Blade, that's the first-person sword-slashing game?
Third person.
Oh,
it was for
which one am I thinking of?
iPhone. It was, and for some reason they delisted the entire Infinity Blade trilogy not too
Damn.
long ago because, yeah, not for any sensible reason, because they're single-player primarily games. They delisted them because they couldn't keep updating the multiplayer content.
Oh.
Yeah, that pissed everybody off. It's like, you can still download it if you have it, but if you don't have it, then you don't have access to it. And the thing is, they were very classically styled games. Like, there were hidden bosses and stages and endings you could get to. It was precisely what a lot of old school gamers would like, and they took one of the worst things from new school and used that as an excuse to kill it.
That's so frustrating.
But
and yet there are so many games like that. So have you heard about this Demon Pit thing?
Yes! It looked gorgeous. It looks like a better Quake sequel than Quake 2. Granted, that's not saying much.
So I played it, right? And I'm loading it up now so you can have a look. So I loaded it up, right? And it's kind of funny. So when the game first came out, I ran around in a circle. I shot lots of things as a demon hunter. It's everything you want out of a game, right? But I'm going to show you something. So there are these weird triangles all over the map. And when you put your mouse over them, they glow. And you might say, well, what's that for? And my answer would be, I don't know. I don't know what that's for. I had no idea what that's for, and I died a lot in this game. Because, you can only move so fast, and there's a relentless horde of enemies.
Oh yeah,
It's kind of
the whole
badass.
point is die.
So I mentioned that in my so on Twitter, the guy's like, "Hey, always remember when playing the game, you can use your grappling hook to immediately leap across the map by clicking on those tower terminals." And so I respond like, "Yeah, it might have been nice to mention that in the game."
Yeah, that's
And so he's like, "We are adding that in the next patch. Don't worry." Because, and this is something I've been seeing so much of lately, which is proof. I mean, not 100% proof, like pretty good proof that it's like so many games, like throughout the development process, never get played by anyone who didn't work on the game. So it's like literally any person would pick up this game and start playing it, and had they just sat down with one person who'd never played the game before, they would have noticed that that person is never teleporting, and they would have said to that person, "Why are you never teleporting?" And that person would have said, "What are you talking about teleporting? I didn't know you could teleport." And they're like, "Yeah, just click the right mouse button." And then, boom, they would have realized, when that happened to them 3 times, they would have realized, oh, the problem isn't with that one guy, the problem is with the game not telling you how to play the game. And they would have fixed it before it came out. Because I got a whole 15-minute video up of me playing the game, just dying over and over again, because I don't know about the teleporter.
yeah.
You know? And it's, how hard is it to just get one person who's never involved in video game development playing your game?
I can't speak to the indie space, because I've actually have helped, like,
Oh, Han says
Renegade
2, by the way,
Sector.
Han says 2 is the best when it comes to Infinity Blade.
I can't fully speak to that because I only got to briefly play 2 and 3 a bit. I've always wanted to go back
He
to
thinks
them.
that 2 is not tedious the way the first one is, and doesn't have the ridiculous multiplayer focus that 3 does. They're all good, but 2's the best. This is Hans's thoughts. But anyway, you were saying about game development, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I've helped Renegade Sector test some of his stuff, and there were a few times where it's like, yeah, no, this section isn't working. There's actually one bit in the section where I think it's the lizard, where, yeah, an entire level section is different because of me saying, yeah, Alec, if you release it like this, people are going to want to stab you.
Yeah. Because,
But
and that's the thing. Do you know how often I do that with adventure games? It's all the time. Where it's like, no, it's clear to you what the solution of the puzzle is because you made the game. But you can't assume that anyone else is going to make this leap.
Guru. The one issue that I do know that is why AAA tends to be more hesitant about it,
Yeah?
leakers.
Oh, okay.
Many people now who are like, World Star leaking. Like, it's now pretty certain that the one time that we were told that, oh yes, Halo 3 is coming to PC, and it was leaked from Saber Interactive, and it was showing someone playing Halo 3 with a mouse.
Yeah.
Very good odds that that was actually a leak. Just
Oh.
like, and that was close to maybe 4 years before we would hear, yes, it's eventually coming to PC at some point.
Damn.
Because, well, to be fair, the Master Chief Collection, like, 3 times in a row, almost came to PC, and then they had to cancel it, and then they almost came to PC, and they had to cancel it. There were a lot of issues with the Master Chief Collection.
There
But
were.
that just goes to show, at the time, someone probably might have even thought, oh, this is an innocent leak, and it'll get people excited, and it's like, yeah, no, Sergey, we're not releasing yet. And I'm saying Sergey because Saber Interactive, they're Russian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're actually one of the foremost Russian studios. Which,
Really? I've
Yeah,
seen their
it-
games, I just had no idea they were based out of Russia. Neat.
Yeah, it's just, that sort of thing is horrendous. Star Wars Battlefront, the first reboot, there were leaks from the pre-alpha on YouTube ages back, and that's actually how, like, when I was doing my review, I was able to, I think I commented on it, how they just could not work out Walker Assault. Like, they kept trying to rebalance it. At one point, it was too easy for the Empire to win. Another time, it was too easy for the Rebellion to win. They just could not iron it out in a way that made it fun, which is why Walker Assault is not in the sequel, and is only used as a temporary objective type for, like, 1 or 2 missions.
Interesting. So they never figured it out. Ah.
Oh yeah, no, to this day, that was, like, one of the worst modes in that game. Just no one could get it to work out right. Plus, the problem was
I do
the
work
maps
it.
themselves were really not working out well. Like, Endor was essentially a slaughter if you were Empire,
Really?
because you would stand out starkly.
Of course,
That's
yeah,
why they
you don't
had-
blend in at all.
Yeah, whereas the Rebels blended in so well that it was actually a balancing issue. I think that's part of the reason why they ended up doing day and night maps, and that's why they've kind of just done that as a feature for here on out for the entire Battlefront reboot series. Is that that's a convenient way of counterbalancing it, so that you at least have somewhat good odds that the players might be able to see their opposition.
Nice. What a cool thing to do. But yeah, I guess all of those, snowman uniforms are going to really stand out on the forest moon of Endor.
Yeah, and like there are ways to work around that, but almost all of those ways were based in Legends, and apparently with Disney, especially when it comes to recanonizing anything, you really have to go through a lot, and even then, they might just sometimes change things. Like, the Death Trooper was one of the most popular skins in that game, okay?
Really?
As soon as the ones for Rogue One came out, and they weren't just a black stormtrooper, yeah, they can no longer be allowed to use the skin from Battlefront 2015.
Why?
You just have to pretend like as if it never happened.
Oh, that sucks.
This is part of the reason why I'm always worried, like, when people are like, I want to see a Knights of the Old Republic movie, it's like, do you really?
I feel like they're going to take a lot of good stuff out if you let them do that.
They've already retconned so many things, which we will be touching upon whenever we talk about Clone Wars, because, like, yeah, there's so many things that are broken now between Clone Wars and Rebels that it's like, yes, technically they could make a Knights of the Republic movie, but whether or not it will actually be the KOTOR you remember,
Yeah,
is
it'll
a
be.
completely
I mean,
different story there.
that's
So,
the
yeah.
problem. If you let the geniuses at Disney at the Old Republic, they're going to do to it what they did to every other part of Star Wars. Bland, defy, and homogenize it, and take out all of the weird stuff that makes people love Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be very sad. Although, to be fair, they did do a version of the... They did have Alan Tudyk playing a version of everyone's favorite murder bot in Rogue One, so that was nice.
He will be coming back, obviously, because of the Cassian story, so...
Yeah, but it is... I mean, he was fantastic, and he's not as good as the actual murder bot from KOTOR, but he's the next best thing.
They weirdly had I don't want to be rambling too much on about Star Wars in addition to everything else, but just like...
It's
I do want to
fine.
say there's a weird string of redundancies also in the new canon. Like, understand, when I was saying about the Death Troopers,
Yeah.
they're based off of the Dark Troopers from, like, Star Wars Dark Forces, the 90s shooter. The thing is, though, there's also actual Dark Troopers that were canonized by a mobile game, and there's another type of Dark Trooper, I think, that was incorporated in another mobile game. They are both made to be canon. They're referenced in other media. Like, this one Star Wars Uprising actually gets a nod in Battlefront 2's campaign. So, like, it's not even like, yes, it only happened in this mobile game. No, that was back when they were really trying to push, no, everything is connected. But as a result, there's lots of redundancies. And the same thing happened with overcompensating on HK-47, where there's Mr. Bones in the Aftermath books, there's K2SO in Rogue One, and they kind of had the inversion of that with Roger in Star Wars Freemaker Chronicles, the Lego one.
Yeah?
That was like the one case where it's like, instead of being a murder robot, he's terribly terrified of everything despite having been a battle droid.
Aww.
Oh, for the record, I do want to say here, out of all the things that Disney has greenlit, the Freemaker Chronicles is absolutely fantastic, and you can freely watch them on YouTube because Lego posted them all. They don't ever play that. They try to sell you the Blu-rays, but they actually have all the episodes
It's
on YouTube.
all on YouTube.
So, seriously,
That's fantastic.
watch it.
Please be careful.
It's adorable. It's hilarious. And,
Don't trip on the cable. Just giving somebody a heads up. There is a cable there. It's white, so it should be easier not to trip on than 80% of my cables. Almost all of my cables are black, and I have a black floor, so yeah, it's a disaster. Really, an accident waiting to happen. Be it Dreammaker Chronicles, and it's all available on YouTube?
Yes, it's all available on YouTube. It has one of my favorite... Understand, I loved the one villain so much that I even included a nod to her in my Star Wars role-playing campaign I'm doing right now, because Nare is just fantastic. She's like those classic 90s animated villains in that she's perfectly happy to just be evil because she enjoys it, but the thing is, it's also done with that modern meta humor aspect, so it's like, she is just perfectly happy to do it, and they roll with that. They actually make jokes around her just being so eager to just want to do the worst thing possible, while everyone else is oblivious. And it is so...
That's
so,
pretty that sounds fantastic.
And there's even, like, Jabba the Hutt's cousin, who essentially is the guy they got to voice him. I don't know his name, but trust me, when you hear it, you've heard him 1,000 other places, and he gives a delivery opposite a Toydarian, the flying guys like Watto in The Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, what if you had Joe Pesci, but he only said one word in response to basically everything?
Oh.
It's so weird that this random Lego show is actually higher quality than a lot of the stuff they put out.
That's fantastic. Oh God. Well, you know, I guess when there's none of the harsh oversight, they can do interesting and creative things.
Yeah. They use you were talking about me cursing in universe. They do that. They do that to get around some of the things. Like someone will actually say "stang" or "crip" when they're worried, and there's actually a lot of references to the Legends timeline because, from what I understand, it entered pre-production. It's like one of the few things that did not get its head cut off. And as a result, it's like actually got a lot of Legends nods that are they're just adorable and cute.
That is great to hear. Oh man, the what was the other one? Really, apparently, according to Horror King, the all of the early Sega systems used standard 9-pin joystick ports, so you could use the controller for like a Sega Genesis on a Sega Master System, but you could also use it on an old-fashioned Commodore 64 or Commodore Amiga.
I could see that, and I think that's rather awesome. I'm sure there's several people who very gladly did that.
See, Hans is bragging because he has his cables handled by having a big desk, and then just having all the cables behind the desk and doing everything in the desk, whatever console or PC he's doing. But my problem is, I'm in a living room. I got my big TV, and I'm at the other end of the room on a couch, so you gotta get the cables over to me somehow.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Hans, I have a big desk too. My dad and I actually put this together, and yeah, my cables are still a mess. I've used twist ties and everything. There's just there's no escape.
Oh.
The cables that. When the PS4 came in, it was just sort of like, I'm really grateful to have this, but also, it's like, how am I going to get these cables in? I found a way. I fit the power cable in, but it was like, this should not be nearly this complicated.
Oh. So now, we're going to do a new video, and stick around for this one too, because it should be fun. You'll see why. Hidden Object Guru here, joined by
the unabridged gamer, who has no idea what's coming and is slightly concerned.
He's watching the stream, so he's only going to find out what we're playing in a second. But we're going to be both chatting about Star Wars, as we love, and checking out the Chronicles of Joseph of Egypt. That's right. It's a hidden object, not hidden object. It's a match 3 game about a certain Technicolor Dreamcoat owner.
His face is so priceless. It's sort of like, yes, I am doing this Chippendales dance to get myself through college. Yes, sir.
Oh, so mean. There we go. Let's turn the volume way down. Oh, poor Joseph. You started out as such a friendly character, and then you enslaved all of your people. But, I understand why you did it, but you still kind of come across as a jerk. Am I too hard on Joseph? Maybe. But yeah, it's one of these hidden object. I keep saying hidden object. One of these match 3 games that HH Games puts out, where it both is a standard match 3 game, but it also tells a story in various cutscenes. And they've done a whole series about Bible stories.
And I don't just mean that simply from the biblical context. I mean just in terms of, it's good to see someone take Match 3 and do more of it, because, that's a super... I remember as a kid playing Match 3 games on, the Disney Channel website and everything, because, that used to be a thing that kids would do, because not everybody just played Fortnite.
Of course, yeah. Now there's only one video game that anyone plays, which is a little weird, honestly. That the entire world is just playing a single game. Like, it feels like dystopian sci-fi from my youth, where it's like there's just one activity that everyone on Earth is all doing. And I'm like, and as a child, I was always like, oh, that's ridiculous. People are so varied all over the world. That kind of monoculture isn't possible anymore. And now Fortnite proves that, yeah, 100% it is. You can live in a monoculture again. It's weird, right?
Oh, it is so freaking weird. And depressing, and... if you want to stop being depressed at the state of Fortnite...
Please.
If you actually... I'll do you one extra since you're throwing a surprise.
Okay.
You can throw any Star Wars question at me that you're at all curious about, and I will answer to the best of my ability.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Okay, let me think. Okay, any Star Wars question? Oh, okay. Well, this is a fun one. It's more of a quiz. Because I saw a tweet of yours recently that interested me quite a bit. And I want to know, why is it that you think that the new TV show is going to disrespect the continuity of Mandalorians?
Oh, they already have. They have already done something. This is something I was actually going to be saving for our discussions, but if you want to hear it now, I can go into it now.
I want to hear a bit of it now. I mean, obviously we'll talk about more in Clone Wars.
Nelson, to the point that he was like, wow, that is kind of horrifying. And the thing is, I'm not alone in this. There is... Okay, so, story time, kids. Way back, there was the Republic Commando game, and it was going to immediately get a sequel, but it got canceled. But the thing is, while that got canceled, another thing was greenlit. Karen Travis, a British author who actually served in the British Navy for a little while, I think it was some sort of scout boat or something like that. And so she actually has some understanding of military terminology and how things work in naval warfare. And they hire her on. She's done a lot of license work. She's actually basically the grandmother, godfather, whatever you want to call it, of the Gears of War lore. She wrote all the lore and Gears 3.
Wow.
And the thing is, part of the reason that happened is because of what happened to her in the process of writing for Star Wars.
Please.
So, she starts writing the Republic Commando novels, and at this point we had some Mandalorian War from BioWare in that, but there was a bunch of contradicting stuff, like Hayden Blackman did a thing for the Boba Fett, for the Jango Fett game rather, that like next to
Star
no one
Wars
else.
Bounty Hunter, yes.
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
it was called.
The tie comic he wrote for it kind of missed a lot of what people, had written for Mandalorians.
Oh.
So Travis was basically in here to not only clean this up, but she was basically given a wholesale rule to do whatever she wanted with them. She has written a dictionary. That's where, like, you saw the tweet and you saw me actually writing. That is actual Mandoa. There is an online dictionary that you can translate your words to.
Okay.
So, like, they were her babies. She worked everything she could into making it.
We have before you continue, we have a statement and a question. Apparently, they added the Infinity Blade sword to Fortnite.
Yeah.
The ultimate. Oh, that's sad. And unabridged, do you have 3 sentences you can tell us on the theory that Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord? Okay. That's a no. He doesn't want to weigh in on that one.
Like, I've had friends who really care about it. For me, that's like, that's just...
one of the silliest theories possible.
There's actually, there is some stuff that makes you go, okay, you know what? Yeah, if you want to think that, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. Like, even Robot Chicken got in on it.
Well, I thought Robot Chicken was where it started.
I can't tell for certain if they were or somewhere else, or if it was film theory or something, but, like, I can at least kind of see, like, there were a few Sith Lords who, like, played the idiot. So, that's, like, it's possible that that's not really been ever my major focus. Like, Gungans in general were never a thing that I focused on personally.
Right.
That said, going back to Mandalore, okay, so as we've established, Karen Travis, she's creating all of this lore, and the thing is, she injected some cultural inspirations that weren't of just generic white people.
Nice!
In fact, it's safe to say that she's the primary reason a lot of Maori culture and other sorts of cultures like that, and Inuit culture got incorporated into how Mandalorians work. Like, Mandalorians, they don't really actually like the Force. They believe in a soul, like an actual human soul that everybody has, except it's not just humans. Because here's the thing, Mandalorians weren't always primarily human. They were actually started out as the Tong, who were this big, badass race with dreadlocks and everything, and they passed on their culture because they were dying out, like literally as a species. They were going extinct. So during the time of the Old Republic, when, Revan and Malak are running around, they passed on their traditions through the Neo-Crusaders, and that's how you end up with people like Boba Fett.
Oh, who is genetically human, but part of the Mandalorian culture.
Exactly. Mandalorians became a culture of embracing people. They ended up becoming very Mongolian, and it's like there's so many different cultures getting tied into this that it's got so many different layers of depth going on, and it's fantastic. And it led to a really distinct and interesting universe.
Yeah, and something that people haven't necessarily seen before either.
It's something completely brand new, and it also presented a faction who could freaking fight Jedi. Like, this was a thing that some of the fanboys didn't like, but one of the things Travis set out to do was to create a culture that could genuinely rival the Jedi, because you can't just tell me that the Jedi and the Sith are the only factions who can actually stand their ground.
No, there are other martial experts out there that come from a completely different tradition.
Exactly. That's why Mandalorians had Beskara, which is one of the things that they completely missed with the Clone Wars. With the Clone Wars, they're like, oh, they have the dark saber, which is a lightsaber, but dark. It literally is black with white edges.
We got another question. Has anyone read the Darth Vader versus Darth Maul comic book? I haven't.
I have. It's nice, but it's also kind of just sort of, it's there. I actually prefer the old Obi-Wan versus Maul fight that was semi-canon for the longest time, because it's a lot more interesting than what Rebels did. Like, I understand the argument for thematically the Rebels one had a lot more emotion to it, but there was this comic Star Wars Visionaries that was all sorts of concept artists just being allowed to do their own little anthology, and the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul is some of the most metal shit you will ever see in Star Wars. Like, there's actually horns being cut off and everything.
Wow.
It was brutal in the best way possible.
That sounds amazing.
For the longest time, it was semi-treated as canon. Like, nobody wanted to say that it didn't happen until, well, then they just brought Darth Maul back, and then every single bit of that got thrown out the window. This is a thing that kind of happened. Understand, like, from Attack of the Clones release to 2006, there was what was called the Clone Wars Project, which is what Republic Commando, Karen Travis' series, was part of. It was this effort to create an entire interconnected unity between every single project. Everything was cross-referenced. A lot like what Disney is claiming that they're doing right now, but they actually were doing it, and everything interconnected. Like, oh, well, you hear Barriss Offee being referenced in this thing? Well, yes, and here she is in the MedStar novels actually doing aid missions with various clones and technician personnel.
How neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of interplay. Like, the micro-series that I sent you, yeah, that is like meant to be what was going on with Anakin and Obi-Wan. For a while, even the CGI TV show wasn't going to touch upon them. They was just going to be, their story is told.
Yeah, that's what the miniseries was for.
Yeah, except George Lucas changed his mind.
He does that a lot. For example, and this is just a fun fact, this is a true fact if you didn't know this about George Lucas. Back in the mid-2000s, after Revenge of the Sith, he's like, TV's getting big. People love this Deadwood, this HBO. There should be a really great, Emmy-worthy, award-winning Star Wars TV show. I'm going to hire 14 really talented writers, like famous TV writers, and I'm going to have them craft a giant interconnected Star Wars world for an hour-long drama show. And it's going to run, and we're going to script it all out. It's going to be 5 seasons, 13 episodes a season, completely pre-planned. And he had them write all 65 episodes, and then he just never made it.
Yep.
That's a real thing George Lucas did. He fully did all of the pre-production. Star Wars 1313 was going to tie into it. He did all of the pre-production.
1313, he actually screwed that one up.
Oh, he did. He absolutely
he completely changed the course. It was going to be an original character and everything, and it's like, no, I want it to be Boba Fett.
Yeah, no, he did. But that's where he was going to... I think part of his reasoning of that was he wanted to tie in the TV show to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. It should have just been an original character. People love Boba Fett, don't get me wrong, but you're right. It should have just been an original character. But what interested me was just the fact that it's like he had such a huge problem with just pulling the trigger on things and just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And that there will never be a better example of that than the giant budget, fully thought out Star Wars TV show that he just didn't bother making. But anyway, is Unabridged looking forward to the new Star Wars movie? Ooh, that's a good question. We're gonna have to have a longer conversation about that later.
No, it's kind of like I don't know what to say because like my big takeaway from the trailer was okay, so they're remaking Dark Empire and that's some really pretty music.
Oh, I'm just not watching the trailer. I want to go in surprised, and the last trailer already gave away too much for me. So while the whole internet this week watched the new trailer, I'm like, nope, I can wait. I'm a nerd. I'm ridiculous that way.
And for me, it's kind of ironic because like I love Star Wars so much, but I have grown to just appreciate the tertiary stuff so much more than just
the big canon stuff. Yeah.
So as a result, it's not nearly as like, ooh, I'm shaking in my boots like so many people are. Because like I have so many friends on Twitter who are freaking out. Whereas my biggest response is, I love this music. Can I just get this music without the trailer? Because I would love to just listen to this music on loop.
Nice. Well, I'm sure you're going to be able to. That's the thing.
I have
soon enough.
No doubt.
In case you're wondering what to get unabridged for Christmas, the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker soundtrack, apparently. All right.
Trailer music, man.
Well, the trailer music's going to be in there. I hope. But anyway, more importantly, you were telling us about the Darksaber and how that was a terrible idea.
Yes, because literally it just comes out of nowhere. It's never been established in any other part of the continuity. Because the thing is, with the Clone Wars, they were given the canon. There was multiple tiers of canon status George set up,
right?
So that he could still do what he wanted. Well, he gave them essentially his tier, which meant that whenever the Clone Wars wanted to do anything, they could overwrite literally sometimes decades worth of.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of trust.
This was their first time. This was like Dave Filoni's third project, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, he'd worked on the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender for some storyboards and for some directing, and this was like, right out of the gate. He gets handed one of the biggest properties ever. And yeah, but more on that later. But the thing is, the Darksaber was one of many things that just, because, like I said, Mandalorians, this very deep culture, all sorts of stuff going on, all sorts of unique things, because with their armor being their big means of being able to counteract the Jedi, it also gave it cultural significance. The paint colors actually mean things. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. Yeah, none of that's canon anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. This is why when people are like, oh no, Legends was just bunk, it's like, no, the 90s stuff was bunk. A lot of the 90s stuff sucked. Everybody knows that. That is just it. It was the 90s. Whereas for the Clone Wars project, a lot of the things that people celebrate about Star Wars: The Clone Wars, yeah, they already did that. Like, seriously, I could write a list. I have written lists sometimes when people have been like, okay, no, really, write me a list. It's like, here are all of the things that someone else wrote that this show gets credit for.
Wow.
And in the case of the Mandalorians, remember, they're this hybrid combination of Inuit, Maori, Mongols. What did Star Wars: The Clone Wars do with them? They're pale, white, blonde Swedes.
That's really upsetting.
Completely not anywhere near them. Also, for some reason, now the Mandalorians want to become pacifists. They want to grow past their nature as warriors. And only the bad Mandalorians want to still, actually wear the armor or be in any way resembling a Mandalorian.
Oh, wow. That is quite a turn. Horror King, I don't recommend anyone do this, but this is a thing I actually do in theaters. I will just walk out of a movie theater, like I will get my seat, I will get myself situated, then I'm like, alright, well I'm gonna go get some snacks once the trailers start, just so I don't have to see any trailers. It's great, because you can go into movies not knowing the entire movie, which is really hard to do these days.
Yeah, it is.
But I know, I'm the only person I know who does this, but I got to see, what do you call it? For years, I completely gave up watching trailers, and I got to see a lot of movies for the first time. They weren't all great, but I did have, like, the experience of having no idea what a movie was about before walking in. Of course, then you have to decide a movie based on writer, director, star, things like that, or general premise if someone describes it to you. So that's a little harder to do, but there you go.
Yeah, but to round things out, it's just like, yeah, that's the sort of thing that happens in general with Star Wars: The Clone Wars, because, like, I understand when people are like, there's some really pretty cinematography, and yes, the Umbara arc is really nicely done, but not only do a lot of the episodes have some really hokey logic, like The Wrong Jedi and the whole bit there with the original series finale before they got up on a season, so many leaps in logic. But
Really?
regardless, oh yes, I remember explaining it to the player in my role-playing campaign, actually. I'm explaining it to her, and she's like, this is what they actually wrote. This is what they wrote. Okay, we're just gonna pretend that something logical happened. And I'm like, yep, that's how I go about it. It just... but yeah, Mandalore got such a raw deal. And the thing is, everybody's like, oh, I'm so in love with Mandalorians, and it's like... You're not.
So, what do you think the take on the new TV show is going to be on those characters and that the world?
Next to nothing to do with the upside is Jon Favreau is in charge of it, and he apparently did actually research the Mandalorians when he got cast as one of the characters in that arc. He played, I kid you not, this is his name, Pre Vizsla. Oh. Yes, they named the guy Pre Viz.
That's right. It just, little joke for the people working in the effects house.
It's like, okay, all right. I mean, Vizsla did exist already as a name. It was in a few other things.
Vizsla?
Oh. Yeah, no.
That's a bit much.
Yeah, I think the Vizsla that Jango Fett went up against was like Tar Vizsla or something like that. It was
okay.
Yeah, it's like, it sounds like a villain name, and it was done up as a Western-style story, so, like, that fits.
But Vizsla, come on.
Yeah, it was a thing. That's the easiest way to describe it all, is it was a thing. But,
that does make me sad.
I really, at this point, I've just tried to not care as much. That's also part of the reason why the trailer doesn't have me going as much. It's like, it's a lot easier to engage with this new timeline if I don't care, because the second that I do, it immediately it's like, all of these things that they did that are celebrated, and it's like, not really. This like, it's not bad.
So much baby was thrown out with the bathwater.
Exactly. Like, whenever they would do something unique, like the Umbaran arc that I mentioned, that one is really well done. It's completely original. They have Dave Fennoy playing the bad guy, and he does a masterful job of it. It's like, I can go for that. I'm perfectly fine with that. But whenever they took someone else's work, they tended to dumb it down for a kiddier approach, which was weird. Especially this one called the Blue Shadow Virus, which you'll see. And, like, understand, when it happened in the Republic comics, it was a tribute to Vietnam.
Whoa!
Yeah, they somehow took an arc that was about Vietnam, where a poison gets released on Naboo's moon, and made it in the kiddiest season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Wow, we're right on the same page working about trailers. If I watch a trailer, it's generally after I've seen the movie, just because I'm interested to see sometimes when I see a movie. I normally don't watch them at all. Every now and then, I'm interested to see how they sold a movie. You know?
A trailer that's just good enough on its own. Like,
yeah, and that can happen.
It's beautiful when they do achieve that.
So here's my question for you. How do you feel about... I mean, you say about the whitewashing of Mandalorians troubled you in addition to everything else. How do you feel about where they've gone with the casting, then, for this one?
I really I want to believe that something good is going to come of it, but also there's one really specific thing that stands out to me in terms of, like, how they're going to handle this and everything is, like, it's not that there's going to be multiple Mandalorians, it's literally just, like, there's a Lego set with the characters and everything, and he is just cited as the Mandalorian. So I'm not expecting to see, like, a
big stuff about their culture. Gotcha.
It's more likely just to be, he is the Mandalorian, because we apparently can't bring Boba Fett back from the dead in this timeline.
Yeah, so Mandalore's out there, no one knows what's going on with it, and he's like the one Mandalorian who's out there being a bounty hunter and making a mess of things because they just don't want to bring back Boba Fett.
Oh, and that reminds me, the one other thing I forgot to mention is, okay, understand, Mandalore in the original timeline was like this really neat jungle world with like unique biomes and everything, okay, and everybody's just, they're actually living very small scale. A lot of people still stick to small scale villages because that's just how they like it. They like to live in clans and be nomadic because they have respect for nature and everything. It makes sense given all the inspirations. In Star Wars The Clone Wars, the entire planet is irradiated because apparently the Republic nuked the entire planet.
Well, that's disappointing.
Every time Rebels or Clone Wars has to go to Mandalore, they either have to go to one of the many conveniently added moons, or they have literally nothing but flat wastelands. Like literally nothing but flat wastelands. And I'm like, how could you as a writer look at that and go, this is the most potential we could have with an environment? Because like, if they had somewhere to go with it, once again, I'd be fine with it. It's not necessarily changed that.
But once again, it's a generic post-apocalyptic Mad Max wasteland every time. Exactly. As if Star Wars needed more desert wasteland planets.
Exactly. It's not like we're lacking for them. My goodness. And, I mean, I do appreciate some things that they brought into the full-on canon, like Dathomir is now a full-on thing, though they also killed them off. That is another thing that Disney loves to do, is they love to kill pretty much anything they introduce. Like, oh sure, the Night Sisters existed, and now almost all of them are already dead. I mean, even sometimes when they bring in their own stuff, like their blend of the Inquisition in Rebels, and it's like, 2 seasons in, yep, they don't matter anymore.
That is disappointing. And I look forward to finding out more about this as I start watching the Clone Wars show with you on an upcoming series of videos here on the channel. But for now, our final thoughts are... No, totally fine. That's what you're here to do. You're here to ramble about Star Wars. That's why we brought you. So you never have to apologize for rambling about Star Wars. But for now, I'm just going to encourage everybody to check out Clone Wars along with us. To get prepped, we're going to be starting our conversations about Clone Wars with the Gennady Tartakovsky, the Samurai Jack guy, Star Wars miniseries, which is a feature film length at 2 hours long, because it's, 12 episodes, 10 minutes long each or something?
The second season they got to do 10 minutes. The first one they only got to do 5, which, by the way, not a lot of people realized at the time. I do want to just add that little context.
Yeah.
Because me as a kid, my dad was recording it on VHS for me. Yeah, remember VHS? Remember when that was a thing? And he's like, I watched the first 5 minutes, and then it just goes to commercial. And I'm like, but where's the rest? And he's like, that was all what they played. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, because apparently he didn't make it like it was a movie and then just cut it into pieces, right?
Yeah, that is something that you'll also see when you're watching, is like, and anyone else who's watching it, there are a few ones where it's like, okay, this was a filler episode that like is showing what else is happening in the galaxy. This isn't actually moving the main plot forward. It's really nice stuff. It's beautiful animation, but the main plot becomes a lot more concrete in the second season. The second season is done like a movie. It is tight. Okay. It is well paced and done.
Luckily, it is all available on YouTube right now. The Star Wars Clone Wars, so you're going to be able to watch that and get us and get up to speed with us, where I think we can all have a good time watching and talking about that together. But for now, I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more, there's buttons for that coming up. Unabridged, is there stuff you would like people to check out?
Find me on The Escapist at Second Look and in the review section getting hate mail, and also at Unabridged Gamer on YouTube and Twitter, where I'm talking about the greatest games that you've never heard of. And, well, actually, that's based on what Second Look is as well. I talk about a lot of games nobody ever talks about.
Like Splatterhouse. But this isn't that video. This is a different video. Yes. We will see you back here for more, but until then, I'm going to say au revoir.
Good day, good day, good day.
Thanks so much for joining me on the stream tonight, Unabridged. We're just going to wrap it up now. We will check out the Clone Wars TV show. So we're going to start with the Gennady Tartakovsky, and then we're going to go chronologically forward from there and watch how the series develops. It should be a lot of fun. And as I said, I have no experience with this series. So I watched one episode of the Gennady Tartakovsky show because I liked Samurai Jack back in the day. And it was an episode where, and I have no idea which season it's from, it was an episode where General Grievous was having a fight scene.
Oh, you saw the finale for season 1 then, probably. You probably saw the finale, and he's just... Yeah, for the record, that's what General Grievous was supposed to be in everything. Like, when I told you about the Clone Wars project, that's how he's portrayed in everything up until Revenge of the Sith, when they changed course.
It's interesting, because I watched Revenge of the Sith, and I'm like, who is this garbage idiot who can't fight? And then I found out that apparently, people really liked him in the Clone Wars, and so then I watched one that I happened to see an appearance by him in the Clone Wars, and I'm like, okay, I see how this can, like, be visually interesting. So, yeah, they screwed up a lot in their presentation of him in Revenge of the Sith. So, we will see you back here soon, tomorrow night for the regular stream, but until then, I'm going to say...